I'm in a race against time to discover the stories locked away in the minds of the most iconic pilots from previous generations. I'm using their stories of mistakes made and judgment earned to improve my flying skills, and I hope you can too. I'm Daniel, and this is the Coffee in a Hangar podcast. My guest today is Frank Knapp. For years, Frank dominated the world-famous Valdez STOL competition. He's also the host of the Oshkosh STOL Demo, and he's here today to tell us how to win at STOL, as well as share with us his newest invention, the crazy aircraft that he is calling the Cubcopter. Enjoy. Can you share some of your secrets on the here?
Secrets?
Yeah, I know. Can you?
I already told you what that was. Paul Klaus and practice, practice, practice. Now that's the big.
I want a shortcut.
Honest to God, he's right. You know, the biggest secret is spending money not on the carbon fiber but on the fuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've been flying for 50 years, but you only started competing in 2013.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then there was like several years in a row that you basically swept the floor with everybody, right? Is that what?
Well,
how
I
do
don't
they
leave enough scraps for the other. So there's some really good pilots in there.
Yeah.
Are the Breedens and Paul Klaus and one thing another. All those guys.
But a lot of it was the airplane, right? I mean, no, sorry, a lot of it was the airplane, not you, right? No, what I mean by that is like that airplane always kind of seemed to me like it performed like almost like an RC plane or something. Like the power to weight ratio was just really good or something.
It is, but it's always a combination.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. If you didn't spend the time, Paul Klaus said it one year. I mean, it was just a profound statement. Practice, practice, practice. You probably remember him saying that, and it just says it all right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you practice enough, if you're persistent about it, it becomes muscle memory. And if you pick the right channels, under these conditions, you're going to fly it that way and over here. And if the transitions just flow between them as the conditions change in the air, yeah, the pilot has a little bit to do, I mean, I'm not.
What do you mean the right channels?
Well, all of a sudden you were going to do this, something on maybe parachute landing. You were all set up doing it.
Landing, sorry.
Get it slower, slower, slower. You got slats on and all the tricks, so it doesn't stall spin on the way to the ground. It allows you to do this. You give up all of the forward speed for a vertical hit, and so you don't travel very far. That's kind of the goal with all of this.
Sorry, I interrupted you to ask you because you keep using that term, but you were saying you're in the channel.
Yeah, well, I call it a channel, but you're all set up in your mind. You got to keep your mind open to all of the options and the things that are changing, because things are dynamically changing. As every condition is different. Maybe you're going to get some gusts all of a sudden. So that you were going to do a parachute landing, and all of a sudden you just change all of that because something, and you do it a different method, a different channel,
Something happens.
thing that you've practiced many, 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 many times, but all of a sudden it morphs into one of the other options. And that's the way I see it. It started out, you always, you just, okay, I'm going to do a tail low landing, put all the flaps in and romp it up and go. Maybe that was just a simple way of doing it, but over time you get more options, and I would say that's where the pilot comes in. If it's a changed condition, that's kind of the pilot's control. He's got control of that facet of it.
For a while there, every year you showed up, it looked like a different airplane. There was something fairly significant that had changed on it. And it's like you're just experimenting and learning and stuff. But when it comes to the actual setting an airplane up to be able to fly slow, one time you're talking to me about like weight and balance and what's important with that. Do you mind sharing that, or is that?
No, it's probably the most important thing to get back. Well, you said it before. The tail flies down. Well, in order for it to be a proper balance to your flight characteristics, it's putting a lot of force, generally, a lot of force down to make the airplane stable.
Mm.
The more you move the center of gravity back, it feels good, but there's a critical point, you know, where the neutral point comes too far forward, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, now you've got a really dicey airplane.
In other words, if you stall, you're gonna not go forward
Well,
anymore.
it can, and you know, that's the thing about the neutral point getting too far forward. If it
What do you mean the neutral point getting too far forward?
well, I'll just explain it this way. If you gave it pitch up,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't have a natural tendency to right itself.
Right.
It would just continue going. So if you gave it a lot of pitch up, you might not recover from it even.
Mm-hmm.
The same way down, you know, kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But that's where you have getting closer and closer to that neutral point is where you get the least amount of downforce as you start pulling the stick back, you know, getting it behind the curve and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all of that force that you're putting on the tail in the form of leverage,
Mm-hmm.
downforce, is now exhibiting itself in the main wing. So it's pulling you right out of the air. It's going to stall the main wing if you continue. But if you tune the airplane closer, safely, carefully, and closer to that neutral point, now you have no. It's happy behind the curve. It's happy going the other way. You just have to tell it all the
Mm-hmm.
time where you want it, and you better be on top of that, because if if you, like I said, if you get behind the curve and you gave it too much input one direction or the other, you might not have enough
Yeah.
to initiate the other direction.
So are you saying that that airplane, when tuned properly, is very unstable? Is that what you're
You
saying?
know, well,
Yeah.
that's yeah. It's
Mm.
it's a gotta be.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. Um, if you want the most out of your airplane.
Mhm.
That, you know, just to tell you with the involvement of things there, you know, I started out, I moved the firewall back 5 inches and I moved the pilot back 3. That, you know, in a lot of people's mind, it would be, you know, that's just over the top and huge.
Mm.
And it is quite a lot of change. And I don't have rear controls in that
Mhm.
airplane either, you know, mostly for weight, simplicity, that sort of thing. Um, but
Well,
move all that stuff back, I'm still carrying 25 pounds at the tail.
mhm.
So at the tail post.
Well, and most of these airplanes are made for a use, a purpose, and that was made to do STOL competitions, right? I mean, essentially. I mean,
It's fun.
yeah,
It's
it's for
it's
fun.
the biggest grin that you can get flying an airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
So, but point is you want, like, I like that my airplane is nose heavy so that I can load it up.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do a STOL competition, that's problematic to
Well,
have a nose heavy airplane.
yeah, you
So you
don't
gotta
you
put
don't you don't want the thing to want to nose over from the get-go. You know,
Mhm.
if you slap it on the ground hard and hit the brakes
Mhm.
and you continue holding them, you're going to be on your top. You know, a
Mhm.
couple people have proven that. Um, the more you can get on the tail, the safer you are all
Mhm.
directions that way.
Yeah.
Um, but if you can tune that out to the most degree,
Mhm.
then then you're not packing 25 pounds at the
Yeah.
tail post. You know,
So when you're flying it around Kinnick, are you, do you have 25 pounds back there?
most of the time,
Yeah.
sure.
Mm.
Yeah, that's where it falls. I call it granny low. You know, when you get behind the curve and all of a sudden you're using a fair amount of power to
Mhm.
hold yourself there. Now you can add all the drag you want. That's when the flaps come 90,
Yeah.
90 degrees and all of that.
Mhm.
If you got gurneys, add them, whatever it is that you want for drag, and and now you're just holding yourself there with the power.
Mhm.
So when you do, you know, give up because you've just crossed a line and you drop it on, now you've put most of the inertia into the downforce.
Mhm.
If the gear is working for you properly, it crushes, absorbs all of that, and now that's the time to have all the brake in the world.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you're slapping it onto the ground.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, I think most of the STOL pilots now know all of those
Yeah.
tricks. Yeah.
I yeah, haven't really been focused on landing short. I started out with that PA-11, and it was like, in a sense, I felt like it was pointless to try to land short because I don't think I could ever take off as short as I could land. So I kind of just never worked on it. Like, and
Yeah.
uh,
I think it would surprise you in that regard. You know,
like what it's capable of taking off.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with bungees, you know, I tell people, you know, bungees will bounce you back into the air all right, but if you and a Cub isn't designed to land on one longeron
Mm-hmm.
too hard, but if you do, if you get it to give up, you know, you're coming in a slip, you've got it all used up, and you just kind of come in nose high and then let it cave way just past your line. Now you hit one tire, that one compresses a lot more because the bungees are giving up on it. And then the other side, when it finally gets there, it absorbs the rebound that that one's going to build, and so it doesn't do anything. It's almost like a, you know, $3,000 gear, you know, shocking system
Interesting.
without the expense.
So
There's
this
so
whole
many
time you should have just been landing kind of lopsided
oh yeah, yeah,
instead of
no,
getting the shocks.
yeah. You
So,
look,
but what about like, so in the practical term, maybe we should wait for that one to go by.
we live on an airport, huh?
Hey guys, you obviously enjoy this podcast. Did you know that 74% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel? So if you want to support the channel, subscribe. Also, comment on our videos. Let us know what you think of the podcast, where you're watching from, and who you think I should interview next. Also, if you want to be part of our inner circle, head over to coffeeinahangar.com and sign up for our email list for access to exclusive content and merchandise. Back to the podcast. In the practical terms, though, my point was always that I just didn't work on it because I didn't feel like it was I didn't want to do the competition thing. And I'm like, well, if I can land there, I can take off again. Like, you know, I don't need to work on my short landing because my takeoff roll was much longer. But the thing I also didn't work on was I would always kind of just leave it on the, if I'm out somewhere, I don't try to do a STOL takeoff either. And so at one point I realized I don't know what this thing will actually do short takeoff. So I was
Yeah,
just kind of flying around and sort of just leaving it on the ground until I came to the end of the runway. And because that's kind of what everyone has said, you know, when you're out in the bush and you're kind of, it counts, you just leave it on the ground till the end of the runway.
yeah,
And I think that's probably good advice. But the thing I realized is because I was just doing that kind of flying a lot, and I never really like figured out what my plane could do,
yeah,
like takeoff wise, landing wise. And this summer, I think I've shortened my landings by like half at least. I mean,
yeah,
that's just because I've been doing more of those type of STOL landings, and it's kind of, I like it.
yeah. And
I like that
that's what
vertical
it did to me.
energy
That's what
dissipation.
changed my hours
Yeah.
from 100 to 200 to 475 in 3/4 of a year. You know, that kind of a thing. It
Yeah.
was that excitement at you've got something that's
Perfecting the
tangible
craft.
here. You can see, you can measure the difference,
Yeah.
and you can see what you've gained. And if you actually make gains,
Hmm.
those kind of perpetuate the rest. You know, and yeah, it's valuable to do because you never know when you need that. You know, I spent half of my flight time, you know, just getting to a place and then blessing it when I got there because I was lucky enough to have landed right side up, you know?
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, no, yeah, the way you said that, like, let me explain that in my words, that you go flying somewhere and you're like, when I get there, I gotta land at this spot. And you land and you get out and you're like, I'm done. I got it. It's, and then you like walk around and you take off again. You're like, whoo, did it.
well, if the first episodes with this new bird that I've got here with the visibility,
Hmm.
the first episodes with it was I would tell people that, you know, it's really hard to have an enjoyable flight. You know, here I am, blue sky, perfect, nice, you know,
Hmm.
visibility, the best visibility I've ever enjoyed. It's hard to have a good flight and enjoy it when you know you're going to have a crash landing when you come back. You know, and that's the way it was treating me because you had this aardvark thing and one thing and another. But,
Do you want to talk about the new one, or do you want to
sure, yeah.
do you want to talk about the struggles?
Everybody's sworn to secrecy here.
Everyone watching.
Yeah. Both of them. Huh?
No, there's. If you don't want the world to know about it, you know, a lot of people watch this. Several people watch this.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you kind of had an interesting flight in the beginning, where you kind of like, well, I flew it, and well, how did it go?
Well, yeah, just let me start with what got it there to begin with. You know, you fly,
Can
like
I
I
show
said,
it?
for over 50 years, and you know, you kind of get the idea that, gosh, I'm flying in a bathtub, you know, and my bathtub is this high, and it's got a dashboard here, and it's got a compass on top of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky if I can even see the ground, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the reasoning for this bad boy here. It's got an IO 360 on it. It's still initial build, it was 1,050 pounds, so it was pretty light as compared to a Cub. It's got Cub wings, Chevron wings, and PA-22 tail. I have changed that to now. This one here is a PA-18 tail. A little
Is
larger.
that's larger than a 22 tail?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Why did you do a 22 tail in the beginning? Weight?
Well, yeah, I didn't put the merit in the tail that, you know, and hey, I'm
That it,
flying this wing. I'm not, that's just there for control.
Mhm.
And I got the message after that. Um,
So do you want to tell me what happened initially that gave you a message?
sure, this plane here doesn't, or did have, let me rephrase that. This plane here has a cowl, but at the time that I initially tested it, it did not. So the engine going through the air is just a big, gnarly
Yeah.
square box, if you want to look at it
Mhm.
that way. So you're pushing that square box along at 80 mile an hour. It's making a heck of a lot of turbulence, in this case, directly underneath the wing, which is right in line with the tail. And it was turning loose the tail. That's what was going
So
on.
when
I
the
didn't,
tail turns loose, it wants to dive then.
well, if you get a full stall, yeah, I've been through that one on another airplane
A
too,
tail
but
stall.
huh?
It's a so yeah, assume that I know nothing about aerodynamics and how an airplane works, even though I have one and I fly it. The tail's keeping the airplane from nosing over all the time, right? Because
It's
you're
flying down.
pushing down, you're
Sure,
flying down.
sure.
So with
But
this
that's the
being,
horizontals. I mean, we're talking the whole assembly
yeah,
here. The vertical was giving me a heck of a time too, because it would turn loose. I told my wife it was much like the initial flight. Well, the initial flight in any bit of turbulent air, it wasn't too bad in reasonable air, you know, calm
hmm,
conditions. Where it would turn loose the worst is if it blew that turbulent air, I believe, away from the fuselage or away from the tail. And so you had this oscillation, this
mm,
change going on back there. But that had to do, I would say, mostly with the vertical. You
mm,
know, the vertical itself was moving either side as much as 2 inches. And you almost don't want to have a camera on it to see that sort of thing when, you know, when it's doing it. But, you know, you need to know it. So I've,
yeah,
you know, I've put another set of restraints on the vertical stabilizer and
like
then
guide wires or
yeah, another
yeah.
set of guide wires and and then built the cowling. Um, that was like crawling in a different airplane after that.
Mm,
I'll just what it felt like. I told my wife that if you were flying and you were perched on the top of a flagpole, it when the gust would hit you, it would wanna it felt like flat spin. You know, it felt like
mm,
it could just kinda tweak over here and you'd be, you know, on your way to the ground. Um, and control was almost non-existent. You were just flying in terrible air is what it
mhm,
was. It wasn't really holding you any good direction,
mm.
vertically or horizontally. Um, that was a scary
You
deal.
were mentioning, I think to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you would pull the power, it would just go.
Yeah, it's still got a bit of the aardvark thing. You know, when you design and build on a napkin,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of the results you get, and so you got to work your way back out of that darkness. You know, and so some of the darkest of it was it didn't control well in turbulence.
Mm.
Then I'm still working with the pitch. The wing itself, compared to Chris's PA11, all of that is appropriate when you look at each element and tie it together, the tail and the thrust line and all of that. When you tie it together, it's reasonable, but
Compared to the PA11.
you know, except that's just all those elements tied together. Now, if you like crippled it by taking the tires out from underneath, it's got 31-inch tires, but this thing is low enough that it if it has any angle of attack when you get the tail up and you're taxiing it, I don't think it does. You know, well, I can assure you it doesn't. It doesn't have angle of attack because it wants to pin on the ground. It'll fly away, you know, 32 mile an hour or so, but you cannot pry it away. You can't pry it off Earth.
Needs more angle of incidence, essentially, or lower tail, or
Angle of attack, I don't care how you get it, you know, I
something.
feel that the result is I'm going to extend the gear a little bit. I wanted to move it forward to make it safer in that regard, you know, just so you don't have tail high problems. But then I'm going to actually increase the wing incidence a little bit too.
What's yeah. What's driving you to do this? Like, this is sorry.
Yeah, but
Like
it
this.
might be insanity. I don't know. I don't know where you're going with this, but yeah. No, well,
You had yourself checked out lately.
after you get this silliness built, then it turns to the reality that silliness equated to an awful lot of money,
Yeah.
you know, and so do you just like pack it all up and throw it in your carbon fiber pile that you've made mistakes in the past with, that you know, including a $40,000 new engine and stuff, or
I think you
just
don't throw the engine in the
going?
pile.
No, I mean, I might have had an engine for sale, but it's got potential.
Yeah.
It's flying like an airplane should. Like I say, in all admittance, I still have a bit of a angle of attack issue, but we'll work our way through that.
This is a video.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
we-
So there's the visibility thing, huh?
Yeah, there's my horizon indicator, my level 2-foot level.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you're in a helicopter too, but like the way the rotor is, the propeller is the copter.
Right, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks like you're in a helicopter. Do you always fly just like below tree level? Like
It's kind of a habit I have, yeah. But
yeah,
it's actually got a better view than a helicopter because it doesn't have a dashboard. I mean,
yeah.
got a little handheld GPS that I use for speed, but that's all.
So that's it before you did the tail thing, huh?
And the cowling.
So you had like
So you can see right there how much, you know, of a brick all of that
oh my
was.
gosh, yeah, not aerodynamic at all.
Well, but when you're trying to search your way through that, you look at, you know, oh, I've got this square block of a windshield. Of course, I've changed it. I've got 15 inches of offset on top now, dumping to the bottom. But you wonder, is that the problem, or is it the tail? Is it the position of the engine?
Yeah.
You know, all of those things come to mind. But
What is
the
this?
last choice when we did two changes, the tail and the cowl, it made it an airplane.
So which was the thing that not that I have any kind of, I'm definitely not someone that should be giving ideas, but I think when I looked at it, I was like, oh, you need to make that window angled out. That didn't do anything, right?
Well, I never did angle it out.
Well, I mean, it is up at the top. It's more of an angle angles
and
toward the top.
That helped.
It did help.
Yeah, because I had 4 inches from top to bottom, and that was a bit more of a piece of plywood just kind of being forced through the air. but this sheds the air. I've tufted it, and
Mm.
you can watch the air. It's dumping off the bottom pretty badly.
And then what is this, like a flap or something on the bottom?
Oh, it's kind of a canard. That was one of my insane little afterthoughts. I changed the windshield, and I had this extra piece of Lexan, so I made a little canard underneath because I knew I was going to be shedding a lot of air, and it was going to be turbulent over that square surface there.
Mm.
So that was the reason for it, but it didn't make that much difference. I don't think, I think that air is far enough down below the tail that this is my
Oh,
conjecture.
so you don't have that on there anymore?
No,
Canard's gone.
yeah.
And is the door just open? Is it, oh no, that's glass.
Well,
There's,
it opens.
but is there there's glass over it? It just looked like it was like there's no door there to me.
Oh, in the back or in the front?
Is that a door right there?
In the back it is, yeah. It's
Okay.
just luggage compartment. It's big enough that you can sleep two.
Inside of it?
Side by side in the thing.
You guys go camping, airplane camping?
Well, we haven't made it yet, but we're planning on it, yeah.
That's cool. So you're at the point now that you're having fun flying it a little bit.
Oh, more than fun.
Really?
It's a giggle. It really is. It's like flying Little Cub. Little Cub is, you know, I keep going through this process. I don't fly it enough, you know.
Mhm.
Well, we've got 5 airplanes, so we're playing
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
But I don't fly Little Cub enough, and you know, the last couple days I've been changing oil and
Yeah.
pickling it and all of that. So you're warming the thing up, and I was doing it there on the airstrip. And gosh, you know, anytime you get an airplane flying reasonable at 20 mile an hour, and that's what I'm doing. You know, I've only got a 1,200-foot strip on my side of the runway, and but you get a little bit of a flight time in the process of that 1,200-foot strip because I'm off into the air, and 40 feet or so. So now at 20 mile an hour, it takes a while to get to the other end.
And so you'd like do just hop back
Yeah.
and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't really planning on going anywhere, because we were just warming it up. But it's hanging now. It's ready for, our adventure to. We go to Arizona
Yeah.
in the winter.
So this, when you're talking about, this is flying at 20 miles an hour?
No,
No.
this one isn't.
Little Cub.
It'll fly
Cub flies it.
with no wind. It'll fly at 32
Mm.
reasonably well. So it's as good as any Cub in that regard.
But it should be better. What is this way?
Well, right now with the cowling and stuff, it's 1,000. I think 1,085 empty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Have you put it out there much? I mean, like who knows that? Like how much of this is like
This
a
build?
Yeah.
Have I put it out? No, not really. Along that line, though, I had the help of a design engineer in Wisconsin, and because initially, see, this thing took 3 years, but I asked people which build, are
Yeah.
we talking, how long did it take to build it? Well, it took 3 years overall, but
Yeah.
the initial build, it was out of the box. This is, people think this is out of the box, but originally the engine was a 320 and it was behind the seats, side by side seating. The 320 was back here, um, engine mounted in, sticking out the bottom slightly. So airflow would go up, heat goes up, that sort of contact. And it had a 4-inch cog belt, small pulley on the bottom, large pulley up here above, and then a long 5-foot shaft with a Type 6 on it so I could hang a prop on it out front, still being a puller.
Okay, so you wanted the prop to be in the same spot, but
But the engine down
engine's
here,
back here.
in my mind, I thought, and it probably holds true because, you fly floats, you realize that there's stability involved in having the
It's like a
weight low.
ballast.
Yeah, weight low.
Mhm.
But yeah, your context about other people and their thoughts, I'm 77 years old, so I didn't really want another handful of problems. I've
Mhm.
rebuilt this thing several times. So anyway, this gentleman in Wisconsin helped me out, and he said, "Yeah, I did my thesis on torsional vibration. And I'm thinking, oh, what's that? Oh, it's when all these guys get together and maybe two of them have a harmonic of the same resonance, and all of a sudden you got a real problem. It breaks things. And you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's a real factor. And
yeah, I mean, would this be the same thing that when in the movies where the opera singer's singing super high and the glasses break?
exactly the same.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
And so this is something you would deal with whenever you put all these things in line to get that prop spinning up front.
Well, you're dealing with it in the form of, is it going to kill me, or is it going to blow the thing apart, or
Yeah.
am I going to rebuild the rebuild another time and then that
Right.
not work? So what I'm trying to say is, yes, I got it out there to that degree, and when I heard that, it was a bit like, the old record player that kind of goes, you know, that's what it did in my head. It was like, I'm not going to live long enough for this. What am I going to do? I still got an engine. I got all this stuff. So, well, went and got a different Lycoming. I got an IO 360 so that I could put the engine up above without having a whole assembly of carburetor down in your face. And I like the idea that the fuel is separate. It's up on top in a starter like it is. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I took his input as face value and realized that, because his suggestion was, I'll give you some suggestions, and we'll try our best to make it right. But if that doesn't work, and that was again where it kind of fell apart for me.
You're like, oh no, wait, we don't have to
They
deal
put
with
engines and propellers together all the time. Let's just do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other thing about propellers, that dudes like experiment with propellers and stuff. And I mean, little tweaks. It's like, well, this propeller is not certified on this engine.
Yeah.
They didn't certify it with the high compression pistons in it. Like, what's going to happen? Like, did they test it?
Yep.
Little
you
things
are
like
an
that.
experimental pilot at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're truly experimenting, because can we talk about that a little bit? Like, in my opinion, you're an experimental guy. Like, guys that are building a Cub that is all certified parts essentially, or exact duplicates of certified parts, and then they're like, well, we're putting Acme before the Acme's got. We want it so we can do the Acme shocks or whatever it was. Like, that's kind of like quasi-experimental. But when dudes start experimenting with just crazy stuff, and then they're like, well, I'm making a 4-place Cub that's got an experimental engine, and that experiment with the tails, all kinds of aerodynamic surfaces, flaps, etc. And then they're like going to put their family in there and stuff. And it's like,
40 hours fly off time might not be enough, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, because you're experimenting with different structural things and aerodynamic things and all this stuff. You really are. That's experimenting. Or like, you're literally experimenting. I'm not criticizing it.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't have 4 seats.
Well, it's got 2, and that's enough to be everything.
How many hours do you have on it now? How many hours do you have on it now?
42.
Okay.
Yeah. So just the other day, I flew off the last temp. There's still more to do, but yeah, it's
you've got to have a great carbon monoxide like lack of carbon monoxide problem with this thing, with the way that exhaust. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like I have one of those detectors that tells like if it's like 1 part per million, and dude, there's so many guys flying around with just the little board that turns colors,
Right. That you never look at until
Right.
it's black on
But
the
it's
dome.
so black, it's like, whoa, how long has it been black? And then all you have to do, what I found is just kind of rub it, and it'll kind of, the outer layer will powderize, and it's white again.
Maybe usable again.
And well, then, and 5 minutes later it's black again. but no, like it's sensitive, and the thing I've noticed is that, like, if I put that in other people's airplanes, that like every Cub flying around has issues with it, and like I've chased this around like crazy trying to figure out where the heck is it coming in. I sealed the tail
I
better, and
yeah, it a lot of
and I
times it could
someone
come
told
back
me the
to
tail thing, right,
right.
needed to be sealed, so I sealed the tail. It made zero difference. Like,
Oh,
I think it was coming in through the door up here.
uh-huh.
So it's like, they say, "Oh, well, the airflow is the exhaust is on the side of the door, but the airflow is going around this way." Well, it's coming in through the door. Like, I know it is, but because if you look at the belly pod, you know how it stains with exhaust?
Mhm.
Well, you can see the other side stained, this side's not stained, things like that make me say, "No, it's coming along the door." But my point is like, it's just I think that all of them are, like, having issues with that.
Yeah.
I'm not the only person, but this one, I'm looking at it, I'm going like, "Man, look at those things. They're going straight up the top."
Yeah.
There's no issues, right? Are there issues?
No, you could have issue with the cowling like it is and one thing or another because there is some leakage into the cab if you had a gasket blow or
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
for
thing,
sure.
inside the cowling.
But as long as everything's sealed, on the exhaust system,
Yep. No,
you're
it's gone. It's not there. You know, you look at where it was and where it is now, a vertical pipe into the airflow, it's the worst aerodynamic thing that you can have,
really,
you know. Um, but
that's what it is.
so yeah, I've considered making the pipe just kind of go out to the side. That
Yeah.
might be a better resolve.
And is the gas tank behind the seat?
Yeah,
Is that what that is?
yeah.
Wow.
25 gallons is all it is right now. I'm probably going to put another tank up in the wing, use that for an auxiliary tank.
So you have explain to me, I don't know much about fuel systems. Um, this is obviously not a gravity feed fuel system, but you have fuel injection. So explain that, how that
Well,
works.
the engine has a mechanical pump on it, and then I've got an auxiliary electric pump, like virtually all injected engines are. It's gravity feed from the bottom of the tank that has a large sump in it,
Mm-hmm.
where I accumulate any water and that sort
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But it's a sump, um, and so it's gravity feed from there to the electric pump that's
Mm-hmm.
down low. So that gets fed and primed, with just the gravity, the presence of fuel being there.
Mm-hmm. And so then once you've started it and the um, injection system pump, sorry, I'm very ignorant about this. Once that's going, does the electric pump, is that still always going? Are both those pumps always going?
During a lot of the fly off, I ran both pumps.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure that I would have muscle memory enough to have, if it quit on me. I just thought,
Mm. And
I'll
just
leave
keep
them.
leaving
I'll
on.
leave them both run. It
Just
does,
go ahead and leave it on, Yeah.
yeah. But
But it's made to run with just the one?
just yeah, normal operation would be you'll have the mechanical pump running, and if in an emergency you'd pop the other one
Mhm.
on if it sputters.
So the mechanical pump is much like an oil pump. It's like off the accessory case or
Mhm.
something. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So.
See, I don't,
Well,
I
this
don't
is
know
my
anything
first
about.
injected engine too. I thought I was going to have a lot of trouble with, hot starts and that sort of thing, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's doing the wrong thing because everything else I have is carbureted, and I've got about a 5 or 10 minute, sequence that I go through every. It's a cycle. You
Mhm.
pull your carburetor heat on, no matter where you're at. You just
Mhm.
pull it on.
Yeah, you always just yeah.
Yep. And that's, I'm looking for that, but I don't have one on this.
Oh man, that would
So
screw me up so
50,
much.
50 years of flying one way, and now I'm doing it the other, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
I want to talk to you today about something that is very concerning involving the fleet of small aircraft that we have today. What if I told you that someone had done a structural repair on your aircraft, had never told you, your mechanic did not know about it, and it was not logged in your logbooks? Now, of course, as a seat upholstery guy, I'm talking about something relating to the seats of your aircraft. If you have a Cessna aircraft, you know, one of the old 180s or early 172, that airplane is nearly 70 years old. And a lot of those seats have never been upholstered. But here's the other thing. The ones that have been upholstered, a lot of times the mechanic and the owner never inspected the seat frame. You may think, well, how is this possible? What happens is owners of aircraft, they take their seats out of the airplane and they take it to an upholstery shop and they say, here, reupholster my seats. And here's a guy that normally does boats and couches and furniture. But a lot of times they tear the old upholstery shop off, and guess what? They find damage in there. Damage that the owner didn't know about because it was covered by upholstery. And they repair it because they're trying to get the job done and get it out the door. And so the owner shows up 3 weeks later and picks up their beautiful seats, puts them in the airplane, goes flying. This sounds like a crazy scenario, but is definitely a scenario that happens way more than you would think. Now, why do they never get inspected? Is it because of mechanic neglect? Not necessarily. We all know about the Cessna seat rail AD. That AD was created because the seats were sliding back on the seat rails at the most inopportune time. That has killed multiple people. But that AD does not cover Piper seats, which could have the same issue, and it doesn't cover other parts of the seat frame. It only covers the part of the seat frame that attaches to the seat rail and the seat rail itself. But there are a lot of structural components to that seat that never get inspected. The problem is that most upholstery completely covers the seat frame. It covers parts of the seat frame that should never be obscured. For example, where the backrest pivots to the frame. That is a very critical point, and in a lot of seats, it's completely covered up by the upholstery. I'm going to show you some examples of this, and then I want to talk about the solution. Okay, this first one is kind of just for fun because it's so extreme. This is the most outrageous example I have of what is your upholstery hiding. A customer literally brought me this seat and wanted me to upholster it. And once I tore the old upholstery off, this is what I found. This is another example of what is your upholstery hiding. Obviously, this frame has since been cannibalized, but as you can see, the frame broke right here. If there was upholstery on this frame, you obviously wouldn't be able to see this. But if it had all its legs and it was attached to the seat rail, you would be able to rock the back rest of this and it would not move because it's secured to the seat rail. But this break would cause there to be stress in other parts of the frame. And let me show you one other one. One of the most common breaks that I see is when holes have been drilled on the front side of a seat frame and then they put screws, sheet metal screws into it to hold on like a plate or something. And as you can see, if it's on the front of the seat frame, that is going to crack like 100%. So imagine your seats broke in that way, and now you have extra stress on where these holes are. It could all lead to something catastrophic. I want to talk to you about the way upholstery should be done. You should have your mechanic strip the frames, inspect the frames, repair the frames, and then paint them and ready them for the new upholstery. And then your mechanic should be the one installing the new upholstery, or you with your mechanic's approval and supervision. And that is where we come in. We make seat upholstery kits that are so easy to install that literally anyone with any skill level can do it in 5 to 10 minutes per seat. In addition to being easy to install, it eliminates the problem of future inspection. Number one, the upholstery does not cover up critical parts of the frame that should be inspected regularly. I'm talking like pre-flight regularly. Number two, it is so easy to remove and reinstall the upholstery without damaging the upholstery because of how our system works, that a mechanic can take the seat upholstery off while the seat is still in the airplane and put it back on in 5 to 10 minutes. Go to sportaircraftseats.com. You can design and order your seats right there. We have a library of installation and instructional videos. Check it out. So can we go a little bit into like some history of you and like what because your dad is a pilot and stuff, right?
Yeah, one of just a quick story about him and me and realizing that I needed to get to know him. I was probably about 8 years old, and at that time, you know, the strip was really nothing. The cops were available and they'd help you in any way, you know.
Mhm.
So after he crashed one over by Beluga someplace, he threw the tail wheel in the back of the truck, and the cops sirens, and or not sirens but lights all the way down to his shop on Main Street. And I was standing there at 8 years old looking up at this airplane that he had, you know, flew back, but all four struts had open holes in them where they had broken, and you know, then they bent the struts back and patched them with baling wire and spruce
So where the
boughs.
crease in the metal was a open
Open
crack.
hole. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Wow.
So this is really, you know, leaving a dent for an 8-year-old kid. And I remember looking up at the leading edge on the right wing, and it was entirely the whole distance. He'd landed. What he had done is he'd taken off on a strip that he couldn't get off on and pancaked it into a bunch of brush, and it was still 50 feet in the air kind of thing. They had to cut all these trees down to even get the thing, you know, back down on the ground. But anyway, I was looking at that leading edge, and it was flat as a fritter. I mean, I didn't know that an airplane would fly with a square, you know, leading edge all the way back against the spar, full length. The skylight was out of it. It had 10,000 holes in it. They didn't have duct tape.
Mhm.
He patched a few of them, you know. And like I
Wow.
say, they didn't have duct tape, so it was all baling wire. It was kind of loose, kind of. It didn't make sense even to an 8-year-old. I remember consciously thinking, I better get to know this guy because, you know, he busted up an awful lot of airplanes, not as, you know, as all that many like that one. That one was pretty dynamic, but I remember talking to him about it over the years, and he kind of a silent kind of a guy, but he'd how did that thing fly, you know? And finally one day he piped up. He said, it still had the Cub emblem on it, you know. It's like, as a matter of fact, yeah, it still
Doesn't
fly. Then, you know, after flying a while, yeah, I kind of believe that for the most part, if you don't get
Mhm.
too wild, why they still will, they'll fly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you're probably not gonna be doing any, like, tight turns and stuff. You just
yeah, I
take off and get home.
over the years I asked that question many times. And he said, yeah, it did take a little rudder, and you know,
Yeah.
obviously it would with that big square leading edge out there. Uh,
So the one side was all flattened, but the other side is
yeah, the other
dude,
side was
yeah, that's
okay. Uh, yeah, I would have expected a whole bunch of stuff going wrong there, but he said he just kept her flat and level and come
Mhm,
back across like so many of them did. They didn't ask any questions, they
mhm.
just did it. Um,
And that was kinda like the normal deal back then for guys to do that. In fact, there's some videos on YouTube that are like, sort of, you know, from the early 2000s or something, where people posted videos of things they did,
Mhm.
like, that were the
After the statute of limitations
well,
ran out.
I think that they were actually quite because they, like yeah, I think they were actually quite recent then, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it was from the '90s and they were in the 2000s or something, but, like, when YouTube first came around, it was like, "Oh, throw this up on YouTube," type thing. But it's like, wait, when did they stop just flying airplanes out? And I know people's probably still do it sometimes, but it's not I mean, like, now you have a flat tire and you call the helicopter, you know, like,
Yeah. Well,
type of
I
thing.
think
I
that
mean,
goes.
I know a guy that literally landed somewhere and he didn't think he could take off, and rather risking it, he called the helicopter. Totally intact airplane.
Planes are expensive,
Yeah,
you know?
and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not faulting him for that at all. I think that's a smart move.
It's gotta be his call, and
Yeah.
it kept his airplane together, so
But there was a time that they just didn't call helicopters, and it wasn't really that
certainly
long ago.
no. Well, all through my growing up with him being, let's call him my mentor,
Mhm.
um, you know, that's what I was seeing was, you know, just all these guys they weren't really orangutans, but they were persistent about what they were doing, and they were gonna have accidents,
Mm.
and they did, a lot of them.
What do you mean that they're persistent about what they're doing?
Well, you know, they wanted to get into this little bush strip someplace, and, you know, somebody'd lose an airplane there, and he'd be busy building it and putting it back together, and somebody else would go wear one out there too, you know,
Mhm.
they kinda but, eventually they got it in, and that's my point to all of this is we're enjoying the result of what those guys
Mhm.
did, That's why I call them bush, true bush
Yeah.
pilots. They did it on ridiculous horsepower and not the big budgets that we have
Mhm.
nowadays. In
Yeah.
airplanes.
Someone sent me a copy of this Flying the Arctic by George Wilkins, this book that uh, George Herbert Wilkins wrote after him and Eielson did the Barrow to Spitsbergen. Is it? Did I say that right? I don't know. Anyway, they did that famous flight across the pole in
Mhm,
like 1928 or something.
mhm.
And I've been reading this book that he wrote like the year after that, so it's like real fresh. It was fresh in his mind, and it's really interesting because I've read a lot of bush pilot books about those early days, and this one was written by someone like months after all this happened, and so it was really fresh. And but dude, some of the things those guys did were
Yeah.
so dumb. Like, no, like, and I'm not saying that out of offense to them, but if we went back in time, if any, like the most like mediocre off-airport pilot, went back in time and went to Fairbanks, they would have been like God because of the knowledge we have today, not because they're better or anything, but just like the decision making was so horrible. Like,
Well,
they would take off just kind of, "Well, we gotta test this thing."
yeah.
So just like, "Let's send it," like, everything was send it, like, like the in the true sense of the word, and
Well, that wasn't 28. That wasn't all that far. I don't know when the Wright brothers actually got
yeah,
their thing,
no,
1900
that's
something, but um, that's there's not a lot of history in there.
yeah. Yeah, but my point is that as we learn and grow, like you're saying, the things that are obvious to me, I'm trying to think of an example. Oh, the weather they flew in
Mm,
with pretty much no instruments.
mhm.
They were flying in weather. Oh, yeah, I was thinking they had some sort of artificial horizon or something, but, like, at one point in the book, he said, "We liked, we found that we could see the horizon. We're flying in fog over the Arctic ice," you know? Like, what? But, like, they were flying through passes where they couldn't see, like, doing compass headings. They took off from there, the engine, the blanket that was covering the engine while they're heating it up caught fire, and nothing was damaged except the shellac on the propeller. And so they were like, well, it's probably good. So they took off, and the thing came apart in the air, the propeller. And so they're like, shoot, and they turned around and landed. And then they just like kind of wrapped it up and fixed it. And well, let's
Yeah.
test this thing. So they just started up, hand prop it, right up. Oh, it's still rough. Like, how did you not
Yeah.
know that by running it up on the ground? Like little stuff like that that they just did. It was weird, but
Yeah.
it
Or
ma-
even today,
it
people
makes
talk
you think.
themselves into things that
Yeah,
they really shouldn't do, probably, but I've
yeah,
done a few of those. When you said bad weather, I can remember as a kid,
yeah.
just, I mean, it's cloudy all the way to the ground, but I found little holes in it and off I went. And that was kind of almost a normal back then. But once in a, then it'll get you and you have
Mhm.
to land someplace that you shouldn't be. Um, yeah,
You did that a lot?
a fair amount. I wasn't the brightest kid.
Okay, so what did you fly when you were a kid then? Or when did you start flying?
Well, I want to say 70 is when I started. I got kind of a backwards start to it. That was what the initial question was here is how this all worked out with my father. But I used to go out, he had a felt hat, and I used to fill up his felt hat every time we went flying. And,
Mm,
it was kind of normal because that's, I mean, it was,
you got some.
I wasn't flying. And that's what I finally figured out. One day we were out in a real, because it seemed like it was always when the Connect was kicking the worst, I was slip sliding around on a load of moose meat in the back seat with no seat belt or anything, just up on top
Mhm.
of this thing. And, so that was my kind of position in it all. I was just a little rodent kid. Um, but one day we were flying out there and it was beating us up and he said, "Well, why don't you take the stick?" Oh, that was a realization. It
Mhm.
was like, wow, I get to pick the next bump and what I do with it.
Mhm.
And it changed it for me. But
So you
but
didn't
I
get sick after that? Or
no,
and
no.
wow.
But it took me a while to get, really get wound up. First, I want to say hot air balloons. I flew those for like 30 years up here. And then interleaved with that was hang gliding. So it was, you know, those things teach you some real,
Mm.
you know, meteorological
Gliding.
aspects of
Yeah.
flying because you're really at the whim of the conditions.
Yeah, that's knowledge. And see, that's what I'm saying. I don't know you that well. I did not know you were into hang gliding back. When were you doing hang gliding?
Oh, I don't know, probably mostly in the 80s, you know, but
Hang gliders, I mean, they were sketchy back then.
they weren't that bad.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I beg to differ.
Uh,
That sounds really awesome. That I mean,
it's like everything, you know, if you kind of limit yourself,
yeah.
don't just go to the absolute
You
limit.
remember the glide ratio of the ones you
Oh, the
flew?
first ones are 4-to-1, you know, but
Yeah, see, that's the one I
yeah, but you know, we got up
Would you
there.
fly off the butte or?
Oh yeah, off the Butte and off. You know, we were the first ones to fly the Butte, and then Hatcher Pass, and then uh, the mountain there in Chugiak, Bear Mountain, that area.
Okay. How would you get it to Bear Mountain? How would you get the
Climb, just
so you
drive to the bottom and climb. We were in pretty good health then too.
would you have like a would you just carry the poles and everything or how like
Sure,
yeah.
no, that's how it's made to be. You know, it's you know, one of the more high performance things is maybe 60, 70 pounds, but the earlier ones were probably 45. You know, just a Regala wing, cut
Mhm.
keel, that kind of stuff. They were pretty light. Yeah, I did balloon drops underneath, you know, underneath the balloon. That's a stall
How
like
do you
you,
do that? What
well,
you did a balloon drop? What do you mean?
hmm, just
Like
go up the,
with a hang
went
glider?
out over the Springer system in Palmer. A buddy of mine took me up in my balloon, I think, and I was dangling underneath it. I'd cobbled together a soaring plane release on the king post on the top, so you were balanced underneath it.
So were you just in the hang glider the whole time
Oh
as
yeah,
he's going up?
taken off the ground, and
Got it.
there goes, yeah.
And hopefully he doesn't drop you and do the release at like 50 feet,
Well,
right?
I had control of the release, but yeah, I suppose he could have probably gotten rid of me if he needed to, but that, you know, just another off subject, but the stall, that's an education because you're
Yeah.
basically in a vacuum. You're moving with all of the air there is, and you're dropping with no forward airspeed at all. So it wants to go, you know, many of them have gone inverted, but you know, it wants to drop real hard.
You mean when you're dropping out of the balloon?
Yeah,
That's just
you start out, you know, basically just pulled in a little bit of pitch down, you know, but it doesn't really catch because you are in a vacuum basically. You don't have any air.
like hopefully your center of weight is forward, right?
Yeah, you got it.
So so did you go from flying around with your dad to doing the hang gliding and the ballooning thing, or did you fly airplanes in there too?
No, in the beginning, I, you know, I guess I could say I developed an interest, but um, it took several years before I, you know, got that first airplane.
And what was it?
It was a J3, 90 horse J3. I
Nice.
put thousands of hours on that thing.
Cheers.
Um, yeah, it had PA, I put PA-18 tanks in it, and so 7.5 hours and a C90. You know, you could fly over to McGrath, and if it was blowing 50 mile an hour, you could still turn around in the air and fly back,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
What was your most memorable moment in that airplane?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Yeah, there's educational things. Uh,
Yeah, are you thinking like, is there any point in telling this or?
well, yeah, I did my stupid stuff in that airplane, my wife was there and daughter. We were over the cabin in the Susitna, and it's just a beautiful spring day, and I'm up there doing some acrobatics,
Mm.
dizzying around, and for whatever reason, I had it tie wrapped in, but I had a little buck saw in the back, and the J3's got a, you know, a yee-yaw thing where it's got a solid tube that runs, I think, forward, and then it has
Mm.
2 cables to the back for, and that thing come loose and got itself caught in all of that, and it wasn't gonna break. For some reason, eventually fell loose, but that was you said memorable, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
sounds memorable.
made a memory. Let's say
Yeah.
that it was kind of scary from the appearance on the ground and everything because
Well,
I was locked. My you know,
mm.
but
Were you like, what attitude were you in when this got
oh,
back?
in a steep turn, yeah.
Wow.
And you didn't want to go steeper because you didn't know that you were going to get that back, and
Hmm.
so, but eventually, I guess I clicked it correctly, and it did fall loose, because I got control back. So many,
How?
over time, and I've never had a major accident, but I had a clevis one time and in a J3. Um, I was on a heavy slip coming into a strip and coming into Palmer actually, and somehow that clevis down there on the rudder pedal got behind something else, and here I am with the rudder full on. Well, that's not the way you want to fly out across country. And of
Mm,
course, I'm skippy doing sideways at that point because
hmm.
I don't have no more control of it. I didn't know what happened, whether I broke something or
But it stuck for, is that one side, was it
left
the left
side.
side?
Yeah, I generally am that kind of a guy. Generally slip to the left, but yeah, when it stuck, I mean, I was just headed off across country and you
Mhm.
think to yourself, well, where's the power lines and how many airplanes am I going to take out if I do crash land this thing? And I just let up on it and it worked better because you didn't have by letting up on it, you didn't have air flowing by the rudder. So I just got over the tarmac and splat, you know, let up on it and let the thing come to a kind of a sideways screeching halt. There was only two people there. There was an instructor and a student, and I think he thought I was being a hot dog. I was just ready to kiss the ground.
Mhm.
It's just, everybody's
What had
those kind.
happened exactly? Do you know what happened? What
Yeah, the
it's
clevis got caught right there, but it could have been in the back. I didn't know. I
mm.
mean, I could have probably munched past it after I realized what it really was if I would have crunched it the other way.
What do you mean the clevis? The part that holds where? I
On the
just
rudder pedal and it for whatever reason when I was fiddling around there, it got some slack in it
Mhm.
and it came up and grabbed a hold of something that
Mm.
was in the wrong place. The builder got a piece of metal in the wrong place and it got behind it.
Mm. Yeah, having controls get locked up, or like, that's not something I ever think about, I guess. Like, we think about engine going out. It's like the thing we're always thinking about. But
Well, and we can be our own worst enemy. I have
mm,
been in many times, and while the neuron is firing, and we have a little bit of an audience here, I'd like to express one. We we think sometimes because I always built. And this was on Little Cub. I always bent my windshield out of Lexan,
mhm,
cut the armpits up here, and let a tab come down over the
mhm,
top, and all of that. Um, anyway, I was you know kind of cleaning the thing up and so I quick made a windshield and stuck in it and I was using a brake in Palmer and coming back and putting the thing in and because you can run Lexan through a brake and it takes it
mhm,
just fine. So I'd relieve it a little bit up there where the tongue would start over
mhm.
the top of the top deck. And I ended up literally, I measured it 5/8 of an inch. I had just kind of like your knuckles would be like this. 5/8 of an inch is all that was, all the way across the windshield in the wrong spot. But it was a liftoff point for air. And you think, I mean, they haul couches on the outside of these things. I mean, that can't cut. That was literally what went through my mind. This cannot cause me any trouble,
Mhm.
you know.
So it's just, in other words, what it is, right up at the top there, in the middle, right above the window, it's just a little lip
The
that you
windshield comes up
created.
here and then it has a tongue.
Yeah,
The tongue goes
yeah,
back over the top. And right where that tongue breaks, I relieved it a little bit with a metal brake
yeah.
and gave it a little this. And I got it too much forward. And like I say, I thought to myself, this isn't going to bother
This is
anybody.
nothing,
This
yeah.
is nothing. Well, I'm here to say, when I took off from my strip, you know, because it's narrow trees, you know, that sort of thing. I was headed to Palmer, 2 miles away, and in that 2 miles, it was at least a dozen times that I had a full-on tail stall. The top deck is carbon fiber, and it'd start rattling, and pretty quick, right behind that would be the tail's going to cut loose. And there was no fix for it other than, you know, you don't have an emergency checklist. You know, what happens if the tail stall? You know, you don't have that.
You don't have
You
that?
don't
You
have
don't have
time
a
for
little
it
thing,
anyway.
pull it out, look at it. Hey, let me see
Well,
here. Hang on.
yeah, you know, I realized that, hey, it was probably something I just did, but I gave it a brap of throttle, and that'd blow the air out, and we'd start that whole process over. And it'd take probably, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, and then rattle, and the tail would turn loose, and in a full-on tail stall. Well, I'm going to be looking at the ground, but I got pretty comfortable with it, actually, by the time I got to Palmer over that, because one brap of air, when you're already dead, I mean, you might as well
Yeah,
be along
might
for
as
the
well try
ride,
to
you
do
know?
something, yeah.
I'm not proud of it, but I do want to pass that on to people
So,
that's a
w
lesson.
at the time, this was on Lil Cub,
Yeah.
which is this airplane. So you've had several. I was just watching, geeking out on videos of you before you got here, you know, just like, you know. But you've had several different tail configurations as far as what part of the tail is covered.
Oh, yeah.
So at the time, what was your tail configuration? Was it,
Bare, open.
well, so the whole thing was, that was
So
when it
there's
was,
nothing, you know, they say that once you kick loose air, it's not going to reattach. But, you know, I would tend to think that that has much more of a chance of air becoming
Mhm.
attached again if it were to do so. But I haven't done a whole lot of, you know, tests in that
Yeah.
regard. Um,
So
but
you're saying, yeah, and I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you had had this configuration of having the top of the tail covered and done that, it may not have been as bad, but you don't know
I
that.
would hope that it wouldn't have been, because it was an event.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the first time that it went, I was, you know, going through my checklist like I say, and when I finally got to throttle, that did cure it. But by that time, I was past 45.
It's so crazy.
You
So you're
know,
telling me if I like took a rope and tied it between my two lifting eyes, that I mean it could be like fatal.
oh yeah, yeah,
You know, or so, you know, just something up
yeah.
there that's like really important area.
Yeah, we, you know, and keeping this, you know, what comes to mind now is it better be baby butt smooth. You know, I remember my father saying it when he was talking to guys back in the day in our shop. And, oh yeah, this is kind of the comment that come out of it. That it's not really wing, but it's an important part of, you know, the whole flying structure. And that went buzzing through my mind at the time all this happened too.
I was gonna say, does it buzz through your mind when you fly this thing?
Yeah, a lot of things.
This thing is all, I mean, that's interesting that you've had all those kind of experiences and then your father saying those things and then he created an airplane like that is, I mean, it's just, you're dealing with a lot of new stuff there.
Well, yeah, you got to want to, because
Mhm.
the fear that happens out of it is,
Yeah.
you know, kind of scary. The first time that thing, because I've got a stick in the middle, it's side by side,
Okay.
and I've now fallen off the 40 hours. We're waiting for the right day to, you know, Chris wants to go up in it, but
Mhm.
the first time out of our strip, because it is large trees all the way around, and total of, you know, a little over 2,500 feet kind of thing. Now, I had both hands on the stick, I'll tell you what, you know, because you don't, I mean, I did a lot of ground
Uh,
running, but, you know, in that first flight, it's always nerdy, but it's a whole lot better if you're on 6,000 foot and it's got open area around you.
Yeah, your strip is, yeah. Do you have any other memorable flying stories,
Experiences?
experiences
Well, I,
to speak of? Like,
you know, I've told you, I have, I've never had a real accident, right?
yeah.
We're kind of looking at that, saying that, but, yeah, so one night I was flying around up the Knik like we all do, and doing a slip to one side and running around that side of the river, and then a slip to the other side, and
Mm-hmm.
that other tire on the other side. So Airframes was up there enjoying the aerial view from above, and you know, like I say, running on one side of the river and the other, and I heard just a little metallic clink, and so I pulled it into the air and had a look out the one side. I could see the tire, and by George, I couldn't see the tire at all on the right hand side.
Gee.
And I don't know, Lucas, I think, probably come up a little close, and he said, you have a problem. You know, everything is disassembled, and it's all hung by safety cables, and this is probably not going to end well. Basically, it's kind of the synopsis of it all. So we, over the radio, we're all talking, and I'm thinking, well, I got plenty of fuel and so on. And so they suggested, well, they had a trailer in Birchwood, and I could land on the trailer, and I'm thinking, all this flighty things and props spinning, and I'm going to land on a trailer sideways, and this is going to be a good thing.
They're gonna like pull it behind a truck or something and down the runway?
Right. Oh yeah, just like you would take off on floats.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to land on this trailer, and I thought, yeah, man, you know, it's been raining. It was in October of, I want to say 2021, and it had been raining, and our strip is kind of a soft spot, and I got a backhoe there. I mean, I can either bury it or pick it up and put the pieces back on it, you know, if I get home. So anyway, I kind of took off for home, and so they followed, and I didn't really want any, you know, to make a spectacle out of this
Yeah.
deal, whatever it was going to be. So I called my wife on the way and let her know that I was alive, but I may not be for long. And so I flew over the strip and made a nice slow approach, and somehow, I mean, these guys are all telling me this afterwards, somehow this pile of junk that was all disassembled, I mean, because it had broken the axle. So this whole pile of junk just kind of assembled itself like putting an Oreo back together, and all of that then supported itself right at the gear base. And I hit the ground, you know, didn't hit the ground. I held it off as long as I could, but slid it onto the ground, is, like I say, wet, and it did a little bit of a ground loop. It did not bend, crink, fiddle with. The tip, the bow hit the ground just a little bit, broke the ground, but it didn't damage anything, nothing. I went and got the backhoe, I had a spare gear there, so I put a gear leg back on it, and I was flying it the next day.
That's crazy.
The thought of that trip, I mean, I knew I would be working on that airplane for a year, because I just thought sure I was going to be on its top.
Then this is not your airplane either.
No, this is my wife's airplane. Yeah, I would have gotten a little bit of lip service out of it too, I'm sure, but yeah.
Do you want to tell the story about Carl too? The Carl story? Do you want?
Yeah, we could, sure.
Yeah, let's do it, and then we'll be done
Okay.
for good.
All right, all right. Yeah, so we're flying. It was dead winter kind of thing, and we're up above Wasilla on the north side, Bald Ridge, and we'd landed up there in the snow on skis, about 4,000 foot. One of the radio sites that were up there. At one time, we had a radio site there, and anyway, we talked to the guys and got ready to go. We lit it up and headed down the hill, and I hit a rock with I want to say it was the left ski, and it broke the cables on the ski. Now the ski went vertical, you know, because it went down into the wind. I did mention that I hadn't had any real serious accidents, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's a memory. So I've got my fur hat, beaver fur hat. It's colder than all get out, and you know, it's getting dark. We haven't got many options, but it's a set of Federal skis, so the top side is kind of rounded, and so I send my buddy Carl out the window with crescent wrench and whatever I had, a 9/16, I think, in the back of the seat, and he works on that all the way down to Lake Lucille
So you're flying through the air doing,
with a vertical ski.
and he's
But
where?
He's out the side glass that you can just push down.
So he's like leaning out.
In the wind, yeah,
Right.
and it's freezing cold. And but he finally, what the plan was, we developed the plan on the way to Lucille was we wanted to release the cable on the backside so that when we did hit with the ski vertical, it would roll over and would just land on the nubbin that was on top. Good plan. And Lucille was blown dry.
Nice.
So anyway, we headed for Lucille. He finally got the ski loose. I mean, it was a fight. You can imagine, you know, even 60 mile an hour going down to Lake Lucille. We got the ski loose, so we're going to try out the theory and see how this works.
Yeah.
So again, on one ski as long as I can, and finally got that ski to drag, and it looked like it was going to pitch back, and sure enough, it drug, and it was a bit more drag than the other side had, you know, because it's just the top of the nubbin there. And so we did a ground loop. We both hopped out of the airplane, and I held the wing up while he flipped the ski over, and we taxied over, and I don't think anybody even recognized that we had a near catastrophic. It wasn't superior planning, but you know, we just had to do what we had to do, and it worked. A lot of those little stories.
Ron Hayes was telling me about one where he shot the ski cable. I can't remember. I think it broke on a piece of ice or something, and then so he had to shoot the back one like that to dislodge the back one. Just shot it off.
Well, I hadn't even thought about that. I might not have had a gun, so
yeah. I mean,
the wrench routine sounded like the real.
Yeah, the wrench is great. Man, that's crazy. I was just reading this book. It's called The Barnstorming Mustanger, and it's about this guy down in Nevada. He's got like 10 stories. This was like way back in the day, you know, but he's got like 10 stories in there about having to walk out on the wing mid-flight to fix something.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like a normal thing.
Time to do some more pre-flights.
Dude, this dude had so many problems with that Hissos, oh man, was it the Hisso standard, or it was the Ox 5 engine? The thing was terrible. And he always says his Ox 5, but yeah, it is always going out climbing out onto the wing, getting up there and fixing something, fixing
alone.
He would have like a student with him or something.
Oh, hold the stick, huh?
Yeah, well, they didn't have radios in the cockpit either, so he would have no idea what was going on. The student would be like, "What's going on?" And he'd be like,
"Hang on a minute."
It's a great book, but yeah, it reminds me. There's been a few stories about people getting out of an airplane while it's flying to fix something, or like what you just said. That's incredible. I mean, like that's a big deal.
Well, but the options were worse, so
right.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, man, I think, that's all the questions I had. I appreciate you coming in.
Sure.
All right, man. Yeah. See you. All right. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Obviously, you enjoyed the content, so please subscribe, comment, let us know what you think, ask questions. That really helps with the algorithm to show it to more people. And if you want to be notified when we have exclusive content or when we have exclusive merch drops, remember to go to coffeeinahanger.com and join our email list.